And we have the right to say it does not apply for the Canadian society. But could we really say it could not apply for the society there?
It does not apply to Canadian society. What applies to Canadian society, if you allow me to say that, Ashraf, is I'm a Canadian.
Yes.
My children are born here.
Yes.
They're Canadian.
Yes.
When I heard this 21-year-old young woman,
yes,
Karine Blaise, I think was her name, just recently, after 2 weeks of service, she was killed in Afghanistan. That is when something happened.
Why was she killed? I'm not familiar with the story.
She was a soldier.
Yes, the Canadian soldier.
And what bothers me is that although on the one hand we say what happened in Afghanistan, we have no comment, but Canada is so involved with everything in Afghanistan. Remember the official line, which I don't believe for a minute. The official line was that we are in Afghanistan because we want to save women from being humiliated. We want the girls to go to school. We want to build wells and dig wells and build their mosque and all that. The reason I don't believe in that is because Canada actually went to Afghanistan to oblige the ultra-right-wing policies of George Bush.
Yes.
And it is that kind of issues which involved Canada in Afghanistan, where Canada almost lost its good name, which was previously Canada was respected everywhere as a conscience of the world, particularly the conscience of the United States.
Yes.
After 8 years of George Bush, although America's policy under Obama likely may change.
Hopefully will change.
But we still seem to be following George Bush's ideology. What is important for me is not whether a clergy makes a statement about women, which is so inflammatory. What is important for me is that a woman, a Canadian woman, who could be my daughter, is sent to Afghanistan on the basis of an ideology, because the excuse that is given, Ashraf, is how can we leave those women in that condition? So we have to send our soldiers there. But what will happen in December 2011 when we are out and the same conditions prevail?
But the important thing, just because you brought this point up, is we should help the society to prosper, and everything else will take care of it. But we cannot leave a poor society. We're spending money on a war machine, where I feel the real solution is help the society to prosper, and all these issues would resolve themselves. You cannot force a Western culture on them. You know these people better than me. Could they really ever become the Western culture?
I couldn't agree with you more.
Right? So let's help them prosper. And don't worry, everything else will take care of itself.
And how do you do that? What you do is, you at least stop giving those people a slogan to come together against the West, against humanity, against everything modern. You know, interesting thing, when this law came about, this clergy statement came about, and the West portrayed it as a very sexy slogan, rape law. It wasn't rape law, but let's say it is rape law for a second. There was a demonstration of some young women in Afghanistan.
Yes. 100 or less than 100, let's face it. It wasn't a big number.
The maximum number given was 300.
Okay, I heard 100.
Let's say 300. Anyhow. Let's say 300. Yeah. That doesn't really matter. But the thing is, a few young women. And they made a tactical error, I think. They demonstrated in front of the mosque of this clergy. And when the people in the mosque learned that these women have come to protest, the audience was already there, the congregation was there. So as opposed to 300, in thousands, people came out. And among the people who were protesting the women's protest, there were more women among them than those who were protesting. And you know the slogan that they were raising is not whether they were un-Islamic or Islamic. They said, foreigners should get out of our country.
Yes.
And what nationalism and religion, these are two very lethal, very powerful elements. What the armed forces, the military solution, as you were saying, what that did, they gave them a justification. Now they're saying that it is all because of the West that we are seeing that restlessness. Take that away from them. Take that slogan away from them.
Okay. What I want to say is, these things they're doing in the name of Islam, and I disagree. They should not do things in the name of Islam. But we should leave these societies to evolve. The Western society did not evolve to its current state in a day, and let these societies evolve. Our job is to help them prosper, and they will evolve.
Exactly.
But to come and force our thoughts on them is wrong. To come and say Islam is wrong, it's wrong too, let them grow.
That is why.
Having said this, I really want to move to the other topic, otherwise we'll run out of time, which is the Swat Valley flogging and the tape. And what's your feedback on this?
Well, in some ways, in terms of behavior, they're both very closely linked.
In a way, the same.
And it answers your question too, that if you allow the societies to evolve, deal with, I would call it actually, and that's why the Conciliators Without Borders you see there. I think the way to go about is somehow educate and train and provide an infrastructure for those people to deal with their own issues, evolve themselves at a grassroots level so they can deal with their own differences.
Why don't you give our audience a little background about this tape, and then let's discuss more.
And what happened, that tape that came out, people say that it's a very recent tape, because there was Nizam-e-Adl, which is the system of justice, was being introduced in that tribal area.
Yes.
And once the president of Pakistan signed that agreement, there was a huge protest against that how come you can deal with the Taliban and you can sign agreement with them. And then this tape came out that after the agreement, look what
was the tape about?
The tape was a young woman being held by 2 or 3 men. She was being flogged. She was lying on her stomach and she was being flogged.
And what was her crime?
The crime was that she was seen with another man.
Yes.
No accusation of sex or anything else. She was seen with another man who was not related to her, namahram as is called. But the issue is the tape that came out, everybody around watching was in summer clothes.
Yes.
Swat is a place where there is a lot of snowfall and all. It's a very cold place, like some places in Canada.
Yeah.
And so that means that the tape was made months before, way back in summer.
Rule was,
and the agreement was nowhere in sight at that time.
Yeah.
But it came out now, and people are saying that how come the timing? Some people are even questioning whether it is authentic or is it staged.
Yeah.
It could be, but let me just say that even if we assume that it's true, it is not a fake tape, and it did take place because people want to impose that law, even exactly like Afghanistan, those people have absolutely no support in the rest of Pakistan. But what happens when the drone comes and fires some missiles at one of the huts and claims that so many terrorists have been killed, but a number of children and women are also killed, and there the nationalism aspect ties in with the religious aspect, and people say that this is being done to us because we are Muslims, this is being done to us because somebody wants to overtake us.
Why don't we separate the action of some of these people that say they do it in the name of Islam when it's really wrong? Just because they say they do it in the name of Islam doesn't say Islam says you should do this.
Not at all.
And that's one important aspect is, you know, how do we educate the West that we as Muslims, when we see this, we deplore it and we say it's wrong and it's sad that it's done in the name of Islam rather than say this is what Islam is about?
I think what you are doing is one way of educating them, but I think people in the West, at least they know as much that Islam is not necessarily the way Taliban have portrayed that. Yeah. They know that. But what happens, what gives those Taliban the power? They get that power because we provide them with an excuse.
Yes.
And they say, well, look, if you allow them, just as you said, let them evolve, because internally they know how to deal with each other.
Yeah.
But when they're dealing with external situations, on the one hand, the drone attacks, on the other hand, people exploiting. Although, if you look at the number of deaths in Pakistan that Americans have caused, let's say a total of 300. Let's assume.
I'm sure the number is much higher, but okay,
let's say 3,000.
Okay.
Assume whatever number you want to, because I'm not talking about exact number, I'm talking about the proportion.
Yeah.
If it is 3,000, then the right-wing Taliban-like people, they have killed at least 10 times more people. But the fact is, they were able to kill because they were able to exploit that. That because our religion and our country is in danger, therefore we should unite. And people, ordinary people, who would not tolerate them. In every election in Pakistan, religious parties got such a low percentage.
Yeah.
But ever since 9/11, you find that people were able to exploit that. Now outsiders are. America is blamed in Pakistan and Afghanistan almost for every evil. And the trick for the West, particularly Canada, because as Canadian I'm more involved in that, the wise thing for Canada to do is exactly what you said: let the institution evolve.
Yes.
Let the people learn about Islam. There are people in Pakistan and Afghanistan who are very much against this kind of Talibanization, but they're seen as part of American agenda, and suddenly they lose credibility.
Yes.
Let things evolve and help them. Help them with schools, help them with training, help them with education, help them with health issues.
I think it doesn't help by attacking religion and say this is wrong. And you know, we have to realize these people have their understanding, their culture, and don't attack religion so much. When you attack religion, people will be defensive.
Look, the simple thing is, there's a litmus test for that. And the litmus test is this: if you want to achieve something, and the means that you're using does exactly the opposite, then that means that you're not doing the right thing. The money and the resources and the energy and the effort and emotion that Canadians are spending on Afghanistan for killing the Taliban and all that, if they could only spend a fraction of that for saving lives, they would be not only much better off in Canada, they will be able to actually achieve all those purposes for which they eventually wanted to go there.
I personally believe if the money Canada spent on the war in Afghanistan had spent it on infrastructure projects, we would have seen much better results than we're seeing today.
Exactly.
It's sad, but politics are politics. There's a lot more to discuss, but we've run out of time. It's always nice to discuss all these issues with you and get your view. Thank you, Shahid, and hopefully, inshallah, we see you again soon on our show. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la